Are you frustrated with throwing hard-earned money down the drain? With supplements that don't work? Do you often feel like a lab rat that's being experimented upon until you hopefully find those supplements that actually work for you and move you forward on your healing journey? I know I felt this way, and I often had to do a lot of trial and error until I found those solutions that actually worked and moved me forward on this journey. I'm going to share with you my learnings on this journey navigating chronic acid reflux in the hope that I hopefully save you from a lot of the trial and errors that I've made along this way. So oftentimes I'd be led to taking supplements that ended up doing me more harm than good. And I've been through a lot of different supplements on this journey. Like I said, it's been 20 years navigating this condition. On PPIs, transitioning from PPIs to supplements, and then from supplements and moving on to a totally natural-based solution. I'm going to share with you a lot of the supplements that really helped make a difference in my journey. The ones that I sometimes still use today when I know I consume those very challenging meals, and I know really helped make a difference in my healing journey. Now, I can't promise these supplements are going to work for everyone, because I don't believe everyone's condition is exactly the same. And I don't think these supplements are the silver bullet that are just going to miraculously get rid of all your acid reflux. They often need to be used in combination with a number of different practices, from your diet to your lifestyle and a whole host of other factors. But I found these supplements to be truly helpful, especially during that transition phase from getting me off PPIs to being able to live a somewhat normal life, but using these supplements as a means to transitioning off these PPIs. Like I said, I don't think this is going to be that silver bullet in isolation, but hopefully a lot of what I'm going to share with you today is going to provide you with that accelerated path to healing and hopefully save you from making a lot of mistakes and get you that relief that you've been so much seeking. Now, as always, please remember that none of what I'm going to share is considered medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. Now, understand this journey can be really frustrating, and I've been through a number of different protocols trying to identify those solutions. Now, unfortunately, there are a number of medical experts out there that also use this trial and error based approach and almost treat you like a lab rat. And I understand also that they're not doing it from a bad place. It's often with good intentions and trying to get you towards a solution that works. But because there is no one-size-fits-all solution that they're aware of, they often put you through this multitude of trial and error-based approaches to try and get you to a stage where you can ultimately heal from your condition. Now, I've been through so many different naturopathic alternatives, homeopathic alternatives, and a host of other different modalities trying to heal my condition. And there were some experts that recommended things to me like going on excessive dosages of vitamin A and even salting my food excessively to try and increase the acidity and heal the leaky gut. But these were often more harmful and detrimental to my health. They often ended up moving me backwards on my journey. There was a time when I was advised to take extremely high dosages of hydrochloric acid tablets. And these were meant to increase the acidity in my body to try and help to facilitate the digestion of foods. And this was on the assumption that I lacked sufficient stomach acid to be able to digest these foods. Now, I do understand there are some people who suffer from acid reflux because of too little acids. Now, if you go back to my earlier videos, I explained to you how my understanding of this actually morphed. That it's oftentimes not because of too much acid or too little acid. It's because we don't end up allowing our body or giving the right nutrients to our body to be able to cultivate the right strains of digestive acids in order to break down a lot of the foods. Because the strains of hydrochloric acid and the digestive acids that are produced naturally by our stomachs are completely different from the strains that we consume via capsules. And because of that, when we take these supplements, it ends up doing much more harm, and oftentimes it can worsen our acid reflux symptoms because it's not the right strains of stomach acids. So like I mentioned, I've been through so many of these different protocols, and ultimately through reading and researching a lot and finally stumbling upon supplements that actually work, I came to identify a few supplements that actually helped to move me forward on this journey. And like I said initially, I don't think these medical experts are doing this intentionally to harm you. These naturopathic doctors often try and heal you and help you wean off a lot of these PPIs, but because a lot of them haven't personally experienced what this acid reflux is like, they tend to also play a trial and error game in order to try and identify a lot of solutions. And it may work for some people, but then it doesn't work for a lot of other people, and often tends taking people backwards on their journey. So what I'm going to share with you today are a few of the supplements that actually, I think, made a fundamental difference and go back to natural principles to try and really help the body actually work to digest a lot of these foods. And they're especially helpful during the transition periods. Now, some of them I don't recommend taking on a long-term basis, but during that transition, when you're moving off PPIs and trying to wean off PPIs, that stage which is really critical, because that's when the acid reflux is going to come back with such a vengeance that it's going to kick your ass. And if you can get through that period, that is really difficult. It's a really gnarly period to go through, because that is the period when your body is going to go through a lot of different symptoms. Because when you wean off a drug, it's almost like a drug addiction, and you're taking away the drug that you are so used to consuming, and your body is not going to know what to do with this. And the bacteria, as well as the pathogens within your body that so much rely on the environment that's being created by you having taken these drugs for so long, are going to do a lot to fight to make you want to consume these drugs again and keep you on that PPI hamster wheel. So what you ultimately need to do is to really push through that period where you're weaning off these PPIs. Now, I told you I took a very radical approach ultimately, where I completely just tossed the PPIs out. I don't recommend that. That was a very aggressive approach on my part, because I'd reached a stage of complete frustration, and ultimately led me to this radical approach of trying to rid myself completely of these PPIs. And there are ways to transition that I know now that can potentially help with that type of approach. But if you are able to wean off these PPIs, it's probably better. It's going to be less aggressive, but you're also going to need that element of determination, because as soon as you get off these PPIs, it's going to force you into a situation where you're going to want to take these PPIs again, because those symptoms of acid reflux could come back. And that is why I think when you go on this transition of PPIs, it's going to be vitally important that you be very strict during those times, because you don't want to do anything that's going to compromise your situation. But I'm going to go into detail, much more detail, in terms of the transition of PPIs, because I think a lot of time needs to be spent there. But before I do that, I need to explain to you the supplements that can actually work to help you get off PPIs, as well as facilitate your digestion in a more natural way. So I'm going to share with you 4 authentic supplements, and the other 3 are going to be food items that function very similar to supplements. And you'll understand one of them, I think, is essentially a concentrated form of vitamins and nutrients that you need to supply your body with. Okay, so let's get right into it. So the first supplement that I think is vitally important and was really helpful on my journey was digestive bitters. Now, digestive bitters, because it helps your body to stimulate the production of enzymes, natural acids, to facilitate a lot of the natural digestive process. Now, oftentimes when we've been taking PPIs, your body is actually becoming lazy and not able to produce a lot of these natural enzymes and digestive juices to help facilitate the breakdown of foods. So we need something to nudge your body a bit to produce these digestive juices to help you digest a lot of these complex foods that you're consuming. Now, ideally, you want to keep these foods as simple as possible to allow for the digestion. And one of the things that I found to be really effective was digestive bitters. Now, in terms of digestive bitters, I'm not here to recommend specific brands. I've been through several of them. The one that I found to be really helpful to me, or the blend that's been really helpful, is actually the St. Francis Canadian bitters Like I said, I'm not here to promote it. So if you find another brand that works for you, go for it. I just found personally that the blend that they use generally tends to work well for me. And some of the main ingredients are clove artichokes, dandelion, gentian, chamomile, turmeric, and ginger. So a lot of these are very bitter herbs that help stimulate a lot of the digestion. Now I'm not a big fan of taking these digestive bitters for the rest of your life. I think they're very helpful during that transition period, during that period when you're trying to wean off these PPIs. They just help to stimulate a lot of your natural digestive system. I don't think it's the be-all and end-all solution. If you are able to get a lot of these herbs naturally and make them yourself, fantastic. But for a lot of us that are unable to get these herbs and juice them and consume them in their natural forms, I think a supplement like this can really help do a lot of wonders in our journey towards transitioning off PPIs, especially if we're not taking a very radical approach where we're going on foods that don't require any real substantial digestive, that don't require a lot of digestive force. They don't require a lot of the digestive juices. So for example, think about people who are going on a juicing fast to try and heal their digestive system. For those people, juices don't require a lot of breakdown, so it might be much more easier for them to be able to do it without digestive bitters. But if you're still going to be consuming some raw foods, these digestive bitters can make quite a difference in terms of helping alleviate a lot of the acid reflux symptoms that you would have experienced from just going completely natural without the PPIs, especially during that transition phase. So there you go, that was the first item. Let's move on to number 2. The second supplement that I found to be really helpful on this journey, especially during the period when you're weaning off these PPIs, or when you know you're going to be consuming a food that is somewhat processed and it's going to require a lot of digestive energy in order to digest this food, or if you're in a situation where you can't take the herbal tinctures like the digestive bitters because you need something that's much more faster to take and easier, quicker to access and take. Like for example, say you're going to a restaurant and you forgot to take your digestive bitters and you need to take something, and that is digestive enzymes. So I think digestive enzymes can be that supplement to take in order to facilitate the digestion. Now, unlike with digestive bitters, which stimulates your body to produce the enzymes that it needs to help to break down the foods and to stimulate the production of the stomach acids to help facilitate the digestion, digestive enzymes are essentially where you take a capsule that contains a lot of these enzymes. So rather than forcing your body to produce it, it's like supplying your body with enzymes to help break down a lot of the food. So it's not the ideal situation, but it's helpful during the transition period. So if you know that your digestive system is weak and you need some support in order to produce a lot of these enzymes, then digestive enzymes might be that supplement that you may want to take in order to facilitate the digestion of foods. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the soil has been depleted in our current day and age, or we have foods that are grown in very deficient environments. So a lot of the natural enzymes that are contained within these foods are often not there, or they're often destroyed during the cooking process. So digestive enzymes, this is where they play a really crucial role in terms of helping digest foods, especially cooked foods. So if you're consuming a lot of cooked foods, then digestive enzymes can make that difference in terms of helping with the breakdown of foods. And I just want to be reasonable here, because there are times when, like I mentioned, I do end up consuming conventional foods, especially if you're going out with friends and you don't want to compromise to the extent that you're eating the very highly problematic foods, but where you're consuming something that would be a middle ground approach, where ideally it's not something that you should be consuming. It's somewhat processed food, but you're trying to establish a reasonable compromise so that you're able to at least have some sort of life. Then that's where I found like digestive enzymes to be particularly helpful in helping us digest these foods during those occasions when you need to consume something that's processed. And like I said, during the stage when you're weaning off PPIs and your digestive system is very weak and you need a lot of support, then I find digestive enzymes to be particularly helpful. Now, in terms of the supplement that I've been taking the Enzymedica Digest Gold. There are higher strains of these, so you can go for, I think, where you can see that there's an indicator over here that shows the strength level. You can go for the highest strength in order to facilitate the digestion. So if you're consuming a food that is highly complex and that it's processed to some extent, and it's going to be a challenge to digest, and generally you want to aim for a very high strength. And if you know your digestive system is weak, if you're someone that doesn't have that much of an issue, for example, you're not weaning off PPIs, or you only use PPIs on the rare occasions, and you're looking for a somewhat more natural solution than PPIs, then taking a digestive enzyme is probably going to be the better approach. And then you may want to take a digestive enzyme, but you need not go for the one with the maximum strength. Like I said earlier, I'm not here to recommend any brands. These are just the ones that I personally use. I'm not getting any compensation out of them. In fact, if you find something better, go for that instead, because it's probably going to do you much more good. These are just the ones that I am able to access, and the ones that I found to be generally helpful from the different brands that I've been cycling through. So there you go, that's the second supplement that I found super helpful in my journey. Let's move on to the third supplement. Okay, so the third supplement is DGL, or deglycerized licorice. And the reason it's deglycerized is because it's not supposed to impact your blood pressure. Now, licorice root is known to increase blood pressure. So if you're someone that's suffering from hypertension, you generally want to rather go with DGL. And DGL is especially helpful during that transition period. So a lot of people end up taking DGL, and it's one of the common supplements people with acid reflux often resort to, because it helps to coat the esophageal lining and prevent a lot of damage that can take place to that lining when you do have these acid reflux symptoms. And it's also going to help to create a mucus lining to protect the esophageal lining, and to try and heal that lining from a lot of the damage that's been caused through these acid reflux symptoms. Like I said, it's particularly helpful during that stages when you're weaning off PPIs, because that's when the acid reflux symptoms can start to trigger and make you feel worse. So DGL is something that you may want to look into, especially during that period. Now, generally with DGL, you take it at least 15 minutes prior to consumption of a meal, and I think sometimes you can even take it after a meal to just help to alleviate a lot of these symptoms. But oftentimes the packaging should give you guidance in terms of how you should go about taking. Now, DGL is not something I use currently. I used to use it quite regularly in the past, especially during that period when I was transitioning off the PPIs. So there you go, that's the third supplement. Let's move on to the fourth supplement. The fourth supplement is something that is used in a number of different conditions, and that is curcumin, or turmeric root. So this can be taken in a supplement format, or if you can get the turmeric root itself, just take the turmeric root and juice it and start to consume that turmeric. It's really good to help reduce the inflammation levels. So a lot of us who are suffering from chronic acid reflux or acid reflux, we have a lot of inflammation in our digestive system. It's often due to a lot of stress and a whole host of other factors. So you're trying to reduce that inflammation. And also because of the environment that's created by the PPIs, the very nature of this environment is inflammatory, because a lot of these pathogens secrete these toxins that cause a lot of inflammation in our digestive system. And taking a supplement that can help to reduce that inflammation can help facilitate our digestion. Now, this is not something that gives an immediate effect. It's not like you take curcumin and you feel amazing. Maybe some people do. I know with me, it took quite a long period of time before you actually start to notice the effects of curcumin in terms of reducing the inflammation levels and actually making a difference. And this is something that I use up until today. I don't really take a supplement. I actually get the turmeric root itself and juice it, or add it to a lot of my juices, so that I'm getting that anti-inflammatory properties from this really vital herb that I think can make a profound difference in terms of healing a number of conditions, especially digestive issues that have at its root a lot of inflammation and require some form of assistance to help reduce the inflammatory effects of a lot of the toxins that find themselves in our digestive system. So there you go, that's the fourth supplement that I think is particularly helpful. Now let's move on to the other items. And these other items, like I mentioned earlier, are natural items. So these are not ones that you're going to potentially get in a capsule form, or at least you don't need to go and get them in a capsule form. They are actual foods that you can use in a way that is very similar to a supplement. So before we get into these herbs or supplements, if you're getting any benefit out of these videos, or you're finding anything that really is resonating with you, please drop it down in the comment section below. I want to hear from you. What is your take on some of these supplements? Have you tried them before? Do they work for you? And also, if you're finding any of this helps, please give this video a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel so that you can join me on this journey navigating mind, body, and soul wellness. Let's get into the food items. So the first item that I think functions really well, and the first herb that I think is really potent in terms of its ability to help facilitate your healing is celery juice. I made an entire video on my celery juicing journey. Now this is really a powerful herb that I find to make a profound difference to your digestive health, especially if you're someone that's suffering with acid reflux. I found celery juice sometimes functions very similar to digestive bitters. In fact, it has a number of other detoxing properties that help with a number of other conditions. So celery juice is a very potent herb to take on this healing journey. And I know from having read some of the other testimonials of people who've been on celery juice, some people are able to even go on just celery juice, very high dosages of celery juice, to almost not having to take any supplements, because that celery juice is so potent in its effectiveness and its ability to stimulate and repair the digestive system. So celery juice I found to be really effective. For me personally, this has been quite a game changer in terms of its ability to really heal the digestive system and facilitate a lot of the digestion. Now celery, I understand it can be pretty expensive, and you want to generally aim for organic celery because the conventional celery tends to be laden with a lot of pesticides. So it is a herb or supplement that you want to make sure you get in its organic form, because consuming a lot of these pesticides is only going to add to a lot of the inflammation. But if it's the only option, then I suggest you get the conventional celery and just make sure you wash it out as best as possible, so you're ridding a lot of the pesticides that have been sprayed onto the product. So that is the first natural item. Let's move on to the second natural item that I think can also help on this journey to healing your acid. Okay, so the second item is arugula. Now with arugula, it's a green leafy herb. It's really helpful in terms of alkalizing the digestive system. It's bitter, so it also helps to stimulate a lot of the digestive enzymes and digestive juices. I found eating arugula before a meal or even with a meal, it's fine. It generally helps to alleviate a lot of these acid reflux symptoms whenever you're consuming a meal that could potentially lead to acid reflux, or even if you're just consuming a salad with arugula, it makes a huge difference. Now, unlike with the celery juice, which you need to consume pure, you need to make sure that you're taking it more like a herb or supplement, because it's taken pure. You can't mix it with anything, not even water. It's got to be taken pure. The arugula, on the other hand, you can mix it in your salads. It works pretty well when you do consume it with your meal itself. It's just a bitter herb that you're consuming that can hopefully help stimulate your digestive system. So arugula I found to be especially helpful as well, and something that you may want to consider consuming, especially in your healing journey. Now this is something you can continue, and I continue taking arugula even up until today, and I find it to be very effective in helping to manage the acid reflux symptoms. So the final item that I'm going to recommend, and it's not really a supplement, but because it's so concentrated in vitamins and nutrients, I often treat it as a multivitamin, and that is green juice. So that means taking a cold pressed green juice and consuming it. Now it doesn't need to taste nasty. You can actually learn to love your green juices. I love my green juices because what I usually mix in my green juices is cucumber. I'll take a bitter herb like kale. I'll take turmeric, ginger, apples. You can even add celery to it. You can add other greens. So whatever other greens that you have, so if it's spinach or whatever other greens you can come across, you can even juice that. I even take asparagus and juice that too, and you make a green juice out of, so it's basically the cold pressed juice. So it's a very concentrated form of the greens. So it's a concentrated form of nutrients and minerals, and often functions very similar to a multivitamin. Now that's the reason why we go with cold pressed juicing, is it's much more bioavailable than a smoothie, because there's none of the fiber content that's going to get in the way of the absorption. So I often treat it as a supplement, but it's a very natural product, and you can take things like apples or pears and juice it with the green juice to make it just so much more tastier, and there's nutrients in there too that can help to facilitate your consumption of this green juice and not make it this gnarly experience that you're going to have to take green juices. You can make your green juices actually taste quite nice, and once you get used to the taste of green juices, you'll actually start to love it and crave a lot of these green juices. So green juices I found to be especially helpful, and like I said, that can actually replace a lot of the vitamins that you are taking, because a lot of the vitamins that you get over the counter are often synthetic and they can do a lot more harm. But I found green juices are particularly helpful. Now the bonus item in terms of supplements, the things that you may want to consider taking is things like vitamin C, zinc, things that you may not be getting enough of in your regular diet. And these are especially in the instances when you're not juicing a lot, when you're not eating foods that are very rich. You want to take things that are going to stimulate your natural immune system. So these vitamins and minerals like vitamin C, zinc, and herbs that stimulate your immune system will be particularly helpful in terms of helping your body get rid of a lot of these pathogens that cause for poor digestion. So those are some things that you want to consider, but they don't make it into the top 10. I generally prefer if you're able to get it from a natural food source, all the better, but I understand that there are certain foods that are totally deficient because of the way in which our soils have been impaired today. So hopefully you got a lot of value out of this video, and I really hope that some of these suggestions or things that help me can also help you on your journey towards healing your acid reflux symptoms. Like I said, I love to hear from you. If you have any comments or share some of your experiences with healing your acid reflux, drop it down in the comment section below. I love to hear from you. And thanks so much for watching my video. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video.